It all began on a quiet afternoon in the city, when a well-dressed millionaire stopped in front of a small crowd gathered on the street corner. Among them was a little girl holding an old violin, her tiny hands trembling as she tried to play. People passed by without paying her much attention, but this man noticed her. Instead of offering kindness, he smirked and mocked her efforts. With a laugh, he said, "If you can really play something good, maybe I'll adopt you." His words were meant as a joke, careless and cruel, but for the little girl, they struck deeply. She didn't answer back. Instead, she lifted the violin once more, her eyes filled with a quiet determination. The man leaned against his luxury car, still smiling as if nothing serious would come of it. The crowd grew silent, curious to see what would happen next. No one expected what followed. The little girl began to play, and within seconds, the air changed. Her fragile notes carried a strength that no one imagined she possessed. The millionaire's smirk slowly faded, replaced by an expression he couldn't hide. For the first time in years, he was left speechless. But what happened after that moment would change both of their lives forever. The music flowing from the little girl's violin was unlike anything the crowd had ever heard on that busy street. Each note carried a story, soft yet powerful, fragile yet unshakable. People began to stop in their tracks, pulling out their phones to record, whispering to one another in awe. The millionaire, who had moments earlier laughed at her, now found himself frozen, unable to look away. It was as though the sound of her violin pulled at something hidden deep within him, something he thought he had long forgotten. But who was this girl? Her clothes were worn, her shoes barely holding together, and her violin looked older than she was. She played not for applause or coins, but with the kind of passion that only comes from struggle and longing. No one in the crowd knew her name or where she came from, but it was clear that behind those trembling hands and innocent eyes was a story yet untold. The millionaire shifted uncomfortably, as if her music was asking him questions he wasn't ready to answer. Was it possible that this child, standing alone on the street, held a gift greater than his wealth? And what would happen when the final note faded into silence? The last note lingered in the air, and for a moment the whole street felt still. The little girl lowered her violin, her chest rising with quiet breaths, but she didn't look up. She was used to people staring, used to whispers, though never quite like this. The millionaire cleared his throat, suddenly aware of the silence pressing on him. He had built his life on business deals, luxury, and control, but this child's music had slipped past all of that, leaving him unsettled. Some in the crowd began to clap, while others dug into their pockets, placing coins and bills into the small box at her feet. Yet, she didn't smile. Instead, her eyes flickered toward the millionaire, as if waiting for him to keep his careless promise. The tension deepened. Was he really going to pretend his words didn't matter? Or would he face what he had stirred up? A woman from the crowd stepped closer, gently asking the girl where she had learned to play. The child's answer was simple: "My mother taught me." That single line sparked a ripple of curiosity. Who was her mother? Why wasn't she there now? The millionaire's gaze hardened, not because he didn't care, but because the question hit far too close to his own past. The little girl's words hung in the air, and for some reason they cut deeper than the music itself. "My mother taught me." The crowd grew even quieter, sensing something unspoken behind those 4 words. The millionaire shifted his weight, torn between walking away and staying, though every instinct told him he was already in too deep. His reputation, his pride, and his carefully built image were all on the line. Yet there was something about this child that held him captive. The girl lifted her violin again, as though the conversation had ended before it even began. This time, her playing grew stronger, bolder, as if she were answering questions through music that words could never explain. The sound wrapped around everyone present, drawing out emotions they didn't expect to feel on a busy street. Some people wiped their eyes, others simply stood frozen, waiting for what might come next. The millionaire's chest tightened. Her music stirred memories of his own childhood, of a promise he had once made to someone long gone. He clenched his jaw, fighting emotions he never let anyone see. The girl's eyes locked with his, unblinking, almost demanding. The crowd leaned in closer, sensing a storm about to break. And then, just as the tension reached its peak, the girl played a note so haunting that even the city seemed to hold its breath. The haunting note faded, but the tension didn't. The millionaire's face, once confident and amused, now betrayed confusion and something else, regret. He opened his mouth, as if to speak, but no words came. And then, a sudden interruption jolted the scene. From the edge of the crowd, a man in a sharp suit pushed through, his eyes scanning the girl with a mixture of anger and fear. He grabbed her arm, insisting she leave immediately. The sudden intrusion startled everyone, and the little girl froze, violin still in hand. The crowd murmured, unsure what was happening. The millionaire stepped forward, instinctively protective, though he didn't fully understand why. The man tightened his grip on the girl and whispered something sharp, something that made her eyes widen in panic. For the first time, the audience realized this was no ordinary street performance. The stakes were higher than applause or money. Someone wanted to control her, to take her away from the music that had captured everyone's hearts. The girl glanced at the millionaire, her expression a mixture of fear and trust, silently begging for help. He hesitated, torn between stepping in and keeping his distance. The violin slipped slightly in her hands as tension crackled through the air. Every person watching felt it. The moment had shifted, and the story was about to explode into something no one could have predicted. The millionaire moved before he even realized it, stepping between the girl and the man who had appeared out of nowhere. His voice, firm and unwavering, cut through the tension. "She stays." The man's eyes narrowed, and for a moment it seemed a confrontation was inevitable. But then the little girl lifted her violin once more, and the first note she played was sharp, clear, and commanding, as if announcing her own strength. The man froze, visibly shaken, and the crowd gasped. It was then that the truth came out. The man wasn't a stranger, he was an agent from a music academy, one that had been searching for prodigies like her for years. He had tried to take her away for her safety and opportunity, but the girl's refusal, combined with her unwavering connection to the street and the people who had supported her, had kept her grounded. The millionaire, stunned, realized that her gift had not only silenced him but had also exposed a world he had never known. As the crowd erupted in cheers, the girl lowered her violin and smiled at the millionaire, who felt something he hadn't in years, pride and humility. Just as relief settled over everyone, a small envelope slid from the girl's violin case. She opened it to reveal a note in handwriting she didn't recognize, simply saying, "The real test is only beginning." The crowd leaned in, hearts racing, as a new mystery promised that her story was far from over. The little girl's hands trembled slightly as she held the mysterious note, but her eyes shone with determination. She looked up at the millionaire, who had spent the day wrestling with feelings he hadn't expected: admiration, humility, and a strange sense of responsibility. He smiled gently, realizing that life's true value wasn't in wealth or power, but in moments like this, witnessing talent, courage, and the pure heart of someone who refused to be defined by circumstance. The crowd slowly dispersed, still buzzing with excitement and awe, leaving the girl and the millionaire standing together. She carefully packed her violin, her music now having opened doors she never imagined. The academy agent gave a respectful nod, acknowledging her choice to stay true to herself, while hinting that opportunities were waiting whenever she was ready. As the sun began to set, the millionaire knelt to meet her gaze. "Your music, it changed more than just me today," he said softly. She nodded, realizing that even small acts of courage and expression could ripple far beyond what anyone could see. The girl walked away with her violin case, the note safely tucked inside, a reminder that life was full of surprises, challenges, and moments to rise above them. And though this chapter had ended, both she and the millionaire knew their paths had been forever altered by one unforgettable melody.